This video shows how to customize the way your final reports look. With PalmTech, you have a ton of options to set up the reports you create to look the way you want. Making changes to the final report look will not impact how you go about filling out the inspection, but will only change the report. Making changes to your reports is done in Print Settings. We can get to Print Settings either by clicking on the Settings tab over here on the left, or by clicking on the Print Settings icon here. Let's go ahead and click on the icon. When you pull up the Print Settings screen, we have 6 different tabs, with the first one being Margins, and then Page Options, Header, Cover Page, Fonts, and Colors. Each of these tabs has various settings on it that you can change to set up the way the report looks. Before we make any changes, let's first take a look at the way the report looks using the default print settings. So to do this, we're going to close out of the screen by clicking on OK, and then we're going to pull up our print preview. We'll skip through a couple pages, and as you can see, we have a standard checkbox format. We have checkboxes for the ratings. We have kind of this darker green category headers. This is the way our header actually looks, and then the information is just displayed in a nice professional looking report. We're going to skip ahead towards the end because we'll go to where our summaries are, and here we're looking at our marginal summary, and that's followed by a defective summary. So out of the box you have a great looking report, but most inspectors that we work with are going to want to make some changes to this. So now that we've seen how it looks by default, let's close out a print preview, go back into print settings, and start making some changes. The first change we're going to make is we're going to edit a couple colors, and we can do this by going to our Colors tab. Let's say that we want to change this accent dark to be an orange, because orange is one of the colors that we want to use to help Brandis reports look more like our company. And so we can go ahead and simply change this to say orange, and then we can click on edit to edit the actual color. And to edit colors, you can change the red, the green, and the blue sliders to make them look the way you want. So we'll change this to get more of an orange. You also have the option, if you know the hex number, you can simply type that in here and then apply it, and it'll pull up that exact color. But now that we've set up the orange the way we want, we'll click on OK. And we're going to change this accent light as well. We're going to click on edit, and we're going to change this to be more of a light blue. So I'll move this green over just a little bit. We'll move our blue all the way over. Perfect. We have that set up, so we'll click on OK, and we've quickly edited 2 of our colors. Now that we've changed the colors, let's jump over to the Header tab and take a look at how to modify the header at the top of each page. There's 2 approaches you can take here. The first is you can work through the various settings here, and then add in the information you want, change where it shows up, and add in your logo. And the second one, and that's the one we're going to take a look at here, is you can set up your own customized header. To do that, simply check the custom box and then click on Edit Custom Layout. This will bring up the customized header screen where we have several options for setting this up the way we want. The first thing we want to do is we want to add in our logo, and we're going to do that by clicking on the Locate Logo button down here in the bottom right corner. This will pull up to where we can see the files on our computer. We'll select our logo and then click on OK, and our logo is added in. So if we look at our logo, we'll see it's added in the top left corner, and here are the properties that control how large the logo is and then where it shows up. Right now we have some other items on top of it, so let's go ahead and make some changes to get this to look a little bit better. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move the logo, and we're going to make it a little bit larger. So we're just going to change the height to 0.91, and we want this to start in the top left corner. So we're going to change the top, and we're going to just make this start a little bit closer to the top. Perfect. As I mentioned before, it's right now being covered up by the page number and then the dates. So let's go ahead and move this information over to the center. We're going to put it below our company name. And so we'll come here to the page number and then date, and we're going to change where it shows up. And so for this, we're going to change it to be centered, and then we're going to lower it a little bit. All right, perfect. So now that's where we want as well. If we want to add something new to the header, we can do that by clicking on Add Element. And then we simply come here and then type in what we want. Let's put in that this was inspected by John Smith. We'll say that we want the inspector name to show up on the top right corner of every single page. And so it's here, and it's being covered up by something that's already there. So let's go ahead and just raise this up a little bit. All right, perfect. That's where we want as well. There's a lot of changes you can make to set this page header up the way you want. And for more detailed information on setting this up, watch the video on setting up your custom header. But for now, we'll say this is set up the way we want. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on close. Now that we've set up our header, let's move over to the cover page and set this up as well. Setting up the cover page is very similar to the header. We're first going to check include cover page, and then we can work with one of the existing options, or we can click on option 5 and then edit the custom cover page. Editing your cover page works just like editing the header. So let's go ahead and make a couple changes. The first change we want to make is we're going to change this to say property inspection report instead of home inspection report. So we'll click on where it says home and we'll simply change it to the way we want. Next, let's say we want our logo to be larger and we also want it to be more centered. So we'll come here to our logo properties, and for the height, we're going to actually jump this up quite a bit. So let's move this to about 1.75. And as you can see, you can kind of use these up and down arrows, or you can click in a box and then type it in. All right, so that's how large we want it. And for the left, let's do 2.7, and that's pretty close to center, and you can tweak it as you need it. And so now the logo's the way we want. And looking at this report, we want it to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit simpler. So let's remove this company information. So right now our company name and our address is set to show up. But if we don't want that, we can click on it, and then you can delete an element just by selecting delete element. So now we have a cleaner looking top to our report. The last change we want to make is we like where it says property inspection report, but I really don't want it to be in orange. I'd actually want this to be black. And so I just select the element and then choose font. And then here you can select the font that you want, as well as change your color. So we're just going to change this to black. We'll click on OK. All right, perfect. So our cover page is set up the way you want. And again, for more information on all the changes you can make here, just watch the video on how to set up your custom cover page. For now, we'll stick with these changes and we'll click on close. Now let's take a look at some of the most important settings, starting with how to change the way the ratings are presented. If you remember back to the example report at the beginning of the video, it was set up in a checkbox format. A lot of inspectors like that, but a lot of inspectors like to change that to make it more of a narrative. And so for this one, we're going to go to page option. We're going to come down here to our ratings section. Right now, view ratings is set to as boxes, but let's change this to as text, whereas you can also set it to not show up at all. We'll set it to as text. And then for the rating keys, let's go ahead and change this to full. And so rating keys, this is the information that shows up at the top of each category. And so by changing it to full, it's going to have the full explanation of what each rating is and then a definition of it versus just having abbreviations. Another common change is changing the way the category headers look. And so for this, we're going to jump over to margins. We have our category header section here. And so for our style, let's go ahead. We're going to change this to, we'll say left justified with bold line. We'll change it to be medium. And then for a color, we'll change it to accent light. Now that we made a handful of changes, we're going to go ahead and click on OK. And let's go back to print preview to take a look at how our example report looks now. So we'll click on print preview. Here, since we've added in the cover page, we see we have our cover sheet data pop up. So we'll click on continue. And right off the bat, we see a change. We have our cover page set up the way we want, with where it says property inspection report and with our logo nice and large at the top. If we go to our next page, we'll skip ahead a little bit, and you can see we have a very different looking report. Our header set up the way we want with our company name here, and then our page number, and then the date showing up right here in the middle. We have our logo on the left. And if we zoom in, we'll see we have a different look as well. We no longer have those check boxes, and we have the ratings are actually spelled out as text. And for the ratings, we have this full explanation at the top of each section explaining what they are. As you can see, with just a few changes, the report looks very different. So now let's go back to the print settings, and we're going to take a look at all the other options available for customizing your report. So we're going to click on close, and we're going to pull up print settings, and we're just going to go through it tab by tab. So on the margins tab, the option we have at the top are the page margins, and here you can simply customize these as desired. Next, we have page options, and we have a lot of options available here. First off is create summaries. If you don't want summaries to appear with your report, then you would simply uncheck this box. Next, we have number summary items. If you don't want the items in a summary to be numbered, then you would uncheck this. Here, we have use standard fonts and summaries. And the way it works by default is that whatever font you use for each note you type in, it's going to be the same font that will appear in the summary. If you want your summary to use the same font throughout to have a more uniform look, then you would check this box. After that, we have combine rating summaries. By checking this option, the program will create only one summary with each report instead of having a separate summary for each rating marked to create a summary. If show cost estimates in body of the report is checked, and you are entering cost estimates into your reports, then the information you fill out for each cost estimate will show up in the body of the report as well as in the cost estimate summary at the end. Next, we have Use Text Separator. A text separator allows you to separate your notes from your descriptions, so that way, when your report prints, there's something in between each line's description and notes. And by default, this is set to have a dash between them. Next, we have Table of Contents, and this is checked by default. If you'd like to get rid of it, simply uncheck this box. Moving to the top here, we have Print Entered Lines Only. And this means that only lines that have information filled out will appear in the report. Print line numbers is an option that inspectors who prefer a narrative style report will often uncheck. With this option checked, it will number each item in a category. The last checkbox is for Secure PDF. If you check this option, then the program will add an additional level of security to the PDFs you create. It's important to note that if you do check this, then the PDF files you create and send to your clients will not be able to be printed. Below this is View Photos. And there are three options for this, as you can have the photos show up in both the summary and the body. You can have the photos show up in only the summary, or you can have photos show up in only the body. Next, we have Print Order, and here's where you can change whether the summaries appear before the main body of the report or after. We've already taken a look at the rating options, so let's go ahead and move on to the font tabs, since we've already checked out the header, the cover page, and colors. On this tab, we have three different fonts that you can set, with the first one being the template text. This is the font for items such as category headers and line prompts such as driveway and walks. Next, we have data text. Data text is the font for items such as the ratings, the descriptions, and the notes, and basically anything you type in. The program allows you to have different fonts for template text and data text, so that it's very easy to separate out in a report what you have entered versus what is part of the template. Next, we have the company name font, where you can adjust the font of your company name, which appears on each page of the report. Also on this tab, we have an option for photos start on a new line. And if this option is checked, then all the photos you add to your reports will show up underneath the line they were added to. If you uncheck this, then if you have one photo on the line, it's going to show up to the right of the line. And if you have multiple photos on the line, then it's going to show up underneath it. That's a look at how you can customize the way your reports look and all the options available. You have a ton of options to set this up the way you want, and as you experiment and make changes to the print settings, you can always go back to the out-of-the-box settings by simply clicking on this button here for Restore Default Print Settings. This concludes the video on report presentation options.